Okay, can start.
Hindi mo naka-auto.
Okay, Ron, please mute. Good afternoon, fellow Makati Rotarians, lovely aunts and guests, and welcome to the resumption of our regular weekly meeting. I am Johnny Ang, and I will serve as your moderator for this meeting. First, I would like to extend warmest congratulations to President Peter, Ann Pamansano, and the whole incoming officers and directors for Rotary Year 2020-2021 for the successful induction last Friday. This meeting is one of the few special ones as we dedicate this meeting to our Rotary aunts, or what we commonly call as the Ladies' Day. And since this is a Ladies' Day, we have a very well-known speaker this afternoon to inspire us about life and values. Before I call on our president to officially call the meeting to order, I just would like to announce some house rules for orderly conduct of our meeting this afternoon. First, please be advised that microphones of non-program participants will be muted to help keep the background noise to a minimum. Second, may we request the visiting Rotarians and guests to please type in the comment box your name, your club or affiliation, or the RC Makati Rotarians who invited you to participate in this meeting so that we can properly acknowledge you later in the program. Third, for our open forum after the talk of the speaker, in case you want to ask questions, please use the raise hand button or simply notify us by typing in the comment box. Alternatively, you may want to type in your question and we will try to accommodate it during the Q&A. Lastly, please don't leave yet after the response of our president, as we will have our group photo up with our speaker. May I call to President Peter for the call to order.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians, Rotarians, and our guests. I now call this 7th meeting of the Rotary Club of Makati to order.
Thank you, President Peter. At this point, may I request Rotarian Manny Pajernos for our invocation.
Thank you. I have a problem with my video. Anyway, Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to continue our regular meetings from our home using the digital platform via Zoom, for keeping us healthy and safe amidst this crisis since the start of the year 2020, fighting an invisible enemy, which nobody up to now can predict when this will end and when can the vaccine for COVID-19 be available. For allowing us to continue our role as Rotarians, help survive this crisis, extending our support not only to those suffering because of the pandemic, but most of all, the economic survival as a result of several extreme measures imposed by our government. Thank you, Lord, for the presence of our guest speaker for today, who will enlighten us on his topic on living the great life. We pray, Lord, for our leaders in government to find the real and concrete solutions in addressing all these problems which the whole world had suffered in fighting for this war on humanity. All this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Manny. Next would be the national anthem and the RC Makati hymn.
together we stand proud. We are leaders with integrity, always ready to serve humanity, always living by the four-way test, building goodwill and peace along the way, giving hope to the world. We're the Rotary Club of Makati, prepared to aid our fellow men, as true Rotarians we live to lead. We believe in service above self, and this is why we succeed. We're the Rotary Club of Makati, and together we stand proud. We are leaders with integrity, always ready to serve humanity, always living by the four-way test, building goodwill and peace along the way, giving hope to the world. We're the Rotary Club of Makati, giving hope to the world. The Rotary Club of Makati.
Thank you. Next would be the greetings for birthdays and wedding anniversary celebrations. Birthdays for this week: Rotarian Bombi Latuya, August 31. Rotarian Chanitan, September 2. Incoming President Louis Asioche, September 4. Mike Toledo, September 4. Rotary Ants, Kaling Yang, September 4. Bessie Amparo, September 5. Bessie Cruz, September 5. Joyce Dison, September 6. And Zenny Floresca, September 4. Wedding anniversaries: June and Lucy Enriquez, September 2. Wilson and Brenda Lim, September 3. Junjun and Cecil Day Reed, September 7. At this point, I'd like to call our President Peter for the President's Line.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. Our lovely aunts and guests. First, let me thank each and everyone for making our club induction ceremony last Friday a very successful and memorable one. We were 229 strong. We had members from our club, brother and sister clubs, service project partners, past and present officers of the district, my classmates, and some of my relatives and friends, sending us video recorded messages of best wishes, or we played them before our proper meeting. Of course, I must thank the program participants. Despite the toned down situation, we made our induction as vibrant and festive as it could be. Of course, PDG Tony Kila, IPP Bimbo Mills, Chito Cantada, PE Louis Asioche, Director Tony Lopez, PDG Pepito Benson, Ann Queenie, my wife, and of course, Director Chris Peraresa, to Governor Chacha Camacho for exerting effort to be with us, to officiate our swearing in, and for graciously laying out her thoughts and feelings in a message that bared her personal concern over certain circumstances in the district. To them all and to my fellow officers and directors and our advisors, thank you very much. Though you missed Tito's Dom Perignon, I promise you, we will have a blast when we have our in-person celebration for our 55th charter anniversary. Okay, second, we received an invitation from our sister club, the Rotary Club Kuala Lumpur Diraja. They will be celebrating their 93rd installation and annual fundraiser online via Zoom on September 12, 6:30 p.m. So we are all invited to join them. And finally, this afternoon will be at 4:30 in the at 4:30 in the afternoon. We'll be having our memorandum of agreement signing with the PPCRV for our voter registration project for the youth. It's for the incoming 2022 elections. So that's it for me. Good afternoon.
Thank you, President Peter. Thank you, President Peter, for that President's time. At this point in time, I'd like to acknowledge the following visiting Rotarians and guests, starting with the District Governor Chacha Camacho, Mary Ann Solomon, PDG Nelson Yucheng Chan, DGN John Michael, Perfect Vision President CP PFB Mache Torres Ackerman, RC Makati Business District, PBF Maria Ira Ruth Albadibi, E-Club of Global City, PBP Eldic Ginto, RC Las Piñas, PBP Larissa Maniego, RC Las Piñas, Camino Real, PBP Ed Garma, RC Makati Central, PBP Cynthia Chosantos, RC Makati Cristo Rey, PBP Margaret Divine Gracia, RC Makati Paseo de Rojas, PBP Mina Polosco, Makati Pio del Pilar, PBP Wenad Fed Dalagan, Metropolitan Pateros, PBP Vanid de los Santos, Muntinlupa Central, PBP Jackie Emokling, RC Nara Central, PBP Jenny Delgado, RC Parañaque San Dionisio, PBP Minco Domingo, RC Taguig West, PBP Christy Aldave, RC Makati Northeast, PBP Cathy Ronquillo, RC Makati Olympia, PBP Fernan Mabanta, RC Makati Poblacion, PBP Ricky Trinidad, RC Makati Premier District, PBP Angelito Manuel, RC Makati Valerio, PBP Bong Lim, RC Parañaque South. I also would like to acknowledge the following guests: President Peter Manzano's children, Sophia Zo, Denise Petrin, Mark Anthony Manzano. From RAC Makati, Philip Banal, Neil Cantos, Karil Dutaro, Charlene Tinaza. Also the following guests: Irene Nicole Fernandez, Ruby Sebale, April Louie, Paul Yap, Adele Chaushan, Jillian Bungayon, Esther Magleo, Rafael Locson, Baby Bale, Charlotte Cruz, and Jinky Tahanko. Also, PBP Lolita Mejia Moraga from RC Puerto Princesa. Thank you for joining us in this meeting. At this point in time, I'd like to request Rotarian Rick Gindap for the introduction of our guest speaker this afternoon. Rick?
Thank you, Johnny. So our remarkable guest speaker today is no stranger to all of us. He is one of the most respected business speakers in the Philippines and a recipient of the Outstanding Filipino Award. As an entrepreneur, Francis is well-versed in the field of manufacturing and retail and sits on the board of Primer Holdings Incorporated. Francis also holds a segment in radio program called Business Matters at DCFE-FM 98.7, where he shares his insights on business, values, and leadership. He's also a columnist for the Philippine Star, and his column has been awarded Best Business Column for years 2009, 2010, 2013 to 2015, and a Hall of Fame Award in 2016 by the Catholic Mass Media Awards. He authored 23 books and counting. Many titles have become bestsellers in the country's top bookstores. Francis has garnered 2 Anvil Awards for Excellence, a Gold Quill Awards for Best Public Speech category given by the International Association of Business Communicators. He also got the Dr. Jose Rizal Award for Excellence in the field of journalism, Communication and Leadership Award by Toastmasters International, Men Who Matter Award by the People Asia magazine, Philippine People Management Association's Makatao Award. He is ranked #1 in LinkedIn list of top 47 Filipino professionals to follow for learning and inspiration 2 years in a row. Francis took up business and graduated magna cum laude. He holds a Master's of Arts degree at Trinity College and Bible Seminary at Newburgh, Indiana, USA. He completed the summer course on apologetics and philosophy held at Oxford University, as well as managing yourself and leading others seminar at Harvard University's continuous education program. Today, Francis is one of the most active personalities featured in radio and TV online interviews. His trainings through webinars for both public and private corporate clients have been well received, and oftentimes quoted in his talks says, digital is the new default. Francis is married to Lilian Nolasco, and all their 3 children are now successful entrepreneurs following his footsteps. Fellow Rotarians and guests, please welcome our esteemed guest speaker, Francis J. Kong.
Thank you very much. Sir Rick, thank you for that very generous introduction. And I think the introduction is too long. It's going to be longer than what I have to present today. But as I was listening to you, I felt like I was listening to an obituary with my entire life flashing in front of me. But thank you. And to our friends, maraming salamat po for having me with you. And I want to thank siyempre si Sir Peter, friends, Pepito, Doris, and special mention to Nelson, who just texted me and informed me that he's listening all the way from Pangasinan. Well, thank you guys. And so, I remember the last time we were still together, that's a long time ago, and I would go there, shake your hands, do beso-beso, do selfies. Those days seem to have gone and now has been replaced by technology. But then look at what's happening right now. Look, bare months. We may be working from home, we may be staying partly in the office, partly working from home. But if you have not noticed, time passes by just so quickly. Ever since the March 15 lockdown, look at the months that have just breezed us by. And here it is, bare months. Somebody says, time moves slowly, but time passes by so quickly. And that's true. And if you don't believe me, starting this month, you're going to be seeing my friend appearing all over the place. And whenever you see him, he triggers a sense of nostalgia within your being. And of course, I'm referring to my friend, one of our most respected, most talented personalities. And because time passes by so fast, please allow me to be the first person in your life this year to greet you Merry Christmas. And if you're seated beside somebody there watching and then listening to me now, please greet that person beside you Merry Christmas. And then ask that person the question, nasan na yung regalo ko last year? Oh, how I miss those days when I'll be doing on-ground seminars and trainings. And in the field of public speaking, I'm usually invited to give talks to mass gatherings. These are big groups, start of the year rally, mid-year rally, end of the year rally, sales rallies, leadership conferences, so forth and so on. But now take a look at what happened. All of those talks, both here and abroad, they're canceled. They're gone. But wait, not too fast. Not exactly. I will begin to explain. Today, thank God for technology, you and I can still communicate today. And here I am, I'm doing this right in the comfort of my home. So what do? We adapt. We got to remember that word because it's going to be crucial specifically for you and I who are in business. Adapting, pivoting. Other people call it repurposing. It's basically the same thing. This quote in the field of biology credited to Charles Darwin, wherein a lot of scholars today are refuting that. They're saying, no, Charles Darwin never said it, but that's beside the point. The argument is not important. What is important is this quotation seems to make sense. It has been said that it is not the strongest of the species that survives. It is not the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. Today, I spend most of my time doing webinars for both my corporate clients and schools. This morning, I was with the UST faculty for nursing, and they too are having a very difficult time because they're now in the crash course of conversion of what used to be physical classroom lectures into an online material because that's what they have to do, and they have to do it fast. That's also the reason why you and I cannot afford to give up hope. You want to adapt, you want to pivot without hope, you won't be able to do that. And you need to be sharp in looking at developments and trace and measure, not just focusing on the negative things that seem to be endless these days happening to us, but then to be able to measure and trace and see the following positive developments as well. COVID-19 has changed our lives tremendously. It comes as a surprise. This was not discussed in last year's strategic business program and planning. This is totally unexpected. Well, business people have a term for that. It's called the black swan, right? Nicholas Taleb coined it and made it famous. And this is the blackest of all black swan. But actually, if you think about it, it's not the start. Starting January, we're beginning to have things happening already. That's why in my column, I wrote an article entitled Volcano and the Virus. Somehow I could physically sense things are going on in a very strange way. Fortune tellers miss this. Feng Shui experts miss this. I mean, how can something as huge as this be missed by these tellers of fortune? That's why a lot of including my Feng Shui expert friends, they're having a hard time now struggling and fighting for their credibility. I remember my friend, he says at the start of the year, Francis, this year is going to be very good for your businesses. I mean, look, 2020, year of the rat. Maybe what he said is true in a different sense. It is the year of the rat. Why? We are all in hiding. Next, we only go out to get food. Next, when we get food, we store it so we can eat it later. And next, every time we meet people, we run away. So we have become behaving like rats. COVID-19 pandemic is different from all other crises that we have ever experienced before. Now, what is a pandemic? A pandemic is simply an epidemic with passports. It has crossed borders. Even a tiny isolated country called North Korea was not spared. And while this virus poses as a health risk, as in other illnesses as well, the uniqueness of this one is its high transmissibility, and then it takes a few days before symptoms can show, which makes it extremely difficult to manage. No cure yet. So the only thing we can do is try to curb the spread of the virus. Hence, we have the lockdowns and the quarantines. And so, the enforced lockdown by the government has forcibly put the entire economy into an induced state of coma. And this is why we wear masks, we have to practice physical distancing. Alam niyo, sa totoo lamang po, I never expected that at this stage in my life, I'll be under lockdown or detention. The last time I was in detention, I was still in high school because of misbehavior. Now, the best thing that we can do for one another is to stay away from one another. And I never realized that the age-old cliche na sinasabing, you know what? I will never touch that guy with a 6-foot pole has become very obvious and ominous these days. COVID-19 has brought many disorienting effects in our lives. Why? It strikes us in the bottom level of Maslow's hierarchy of need. And in the bottom level, where in physiological needs like food and shelter and clothing and everything else, if it hits us on that bottom level, the whole pyramid collapses. At the very start of the lockdown, we had a very nice conversation with Presidential Advisor Joey Concepcion, and he says something very wise, and he says, alam mo, itong prolonged lockdown na to will be a matter of lives versus livelihoods. And then when you think about it, I think it has gone beyond that. It is now a question of lives versus lives. And now it's beginning to show. Let me explain. Every past economic downturn will always show you that there will be an increase in domestic violence, there will be increase in marital relationship conflict, there will be an increase in mental health issues, which is happening right now. There's going to be an increase in depression, and God forbid, high suicide rate. The hotline for suicide now has risen up in Goldborn Foundation by more than 200%. Government is now even asking churches to minister and help comfort those who are having great anxiety. So it is indeed lives after lives. So here's what I'd like to do. My first message for you today is please, please, please be safe. Stay healthy. You've got to be very intentional in keeping yourself safe and healthy. You need to be strong because you need to be strong not only for you and your family, but you need to be strong in order to lend your strength to the people out there who will be needing it. So many things have happened. Let me give you a litany of the things that I have observed. Work from home is a huge thing that has happened. Work from home is going to be here to stay. Get around to getting used to it. Ever since Jack Dorsey, the top guy of Twitter, announces that Twitter is going to send 95% of their people to work from home forever, the next day there was an avalanche of companies declaring the same thing. Google announces that they're going to send their 100% of their people to work from home until about July of 2021. And then 4 days ago, Uber announced that they're going to send all their people to work from home until October of 2021. Now, that gives us a vague idea as to the projection of these companies have towards this virus. Work from home will make companies redefine what an office is. With physical distancing, I don't think any business person in his right sense of mind will be willing to spend more in expanding the territories and their space and pay higher rent in order to accommodate physical distancing among their employees. A study was conducted wherein if you will populate the buildings using physical distancing rules now, it will take you about 2 hours in order to do that. Nobody will have that patience to do so. And maybe work from home has also revealed, the age-old debate wherein ang problema nitong mga millennials na to, gusto nila mag-work from home, pero hindi ba they're gonna go home, they're gonna do Facebook, Mobile Legends, they're gonna do video games and Netflix. That is already rendered moot and academic. Today, more than enough survey has already shown that productivity actually has arisen. And a lot more younger people now are enjoying working from home. So, the problem now is not that their productivity goes down. The problem now is that their productivity goes too up, too high, and they don't know when to stop. That's why my corporate clients now are inviting me to do wellness program to advise these young people how to do work from home. Now, every change that happens requires new adjustments, adaptation, and new skills. Take a look at what we're doing now, Zooming. Do you understand that Zooming now requires new skills? And yet a lot of people still do not understand that. Sabi ko nga sa mga kliyente ko you know, when you're looking down at your laptop, a lot of people look down, a lot of people look up, a lot of people get so close to the screen. That camera in your laptop, on your iPad, or in your computers has a sensor that automatically adjusts. And by the way, sounds are picked up. And so, when you have a strong light behind you, it makes you look so dark. It looks like as if you have enrolled under the witness protection program. Today, the most common expression you can hear is, "Can you hear me? I can't hear you." Unmute mo, unmute. What are the things you hear? You hear babies crying, dogs barking, cars honking. What do you see? Bad hairstyles, unshaven faces. Everybody today has been so forgiving. And then sometimes you hear sounds of exhaust coming from both trucks and in some rare occasions, body parts. Next, consider the following things. I'm going to go through this very, very quickly to set the stage as to understand how we should navigate the new reality. Digital is the new default. We are entering a contactless economy. I sit on the board of a company with 300 plus retail stores. You know, even with the most opened, sales still is far from the usual. Why? People are afraid. The only way you can restore business is to restore customer confidence. And not only that, even our staff they're so afraid of reporting for work. The key to business restoration is to provide the reassurance that it is safe for you to do so, and we're far from that yet. The pandemic has eliminated a lot of bureaucracies and egos. Dati po, it was very difficult when you come up with an idea and you want to introduce that idea to the corporate world, and you have to go through your team lead has to go through your manager has to go through your department head has to go through the superintendent or whatever, and then the area manager. Oh my goodness. Ang tagal po ngayon, COVID-19 has practically reduced those bureaucracies and remove ego. Pero meron pa rin. Pero nabawasan naman. Do you remember pre-COVID times? Maraming mga nagagalit, ang bandido man sa akin to. Bakit ako binaypass? There are so many people complaining, ibabypass na naman ako. There's so many people who are so fixated with bypass. Punta na lang kaya sila sa Philippine Heart Center, maraming bypass doon. This pandemic has accelerated learning. Nobody has the luxury of time. They have to learn fast. Parents learn online tutorial and homeschooling within days. Many things have accelerated almost structurally. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking to our friends from the medical field again, the doctors. Yan ang kinukwento ko sa kanila. Pre-COVID times, telemedicine was in their late teens, 17, 18, 19% of the market practice. Today, in America, it is a whopping 85% and keeps on rising, and we are following suit. Ang mga mabibilis dito, yung mga dermatologists, ang gagaling nila mag-adapt. Here are some random thoughts you might want to consider. Itong pandemic ito, is this an interruption or is this a disruption? My answer is neither. It is a reset. It is a reboot. Even when everything now is settled, we are discovering that we're going to be entering a world that is totally unrecognizable. It's a brand new world out there. And it's hard to go back to normal when normal is dead. Things we have to consider, which is also good for us and our chapters in our organization. Crisis does not necessarily create failure, but crisis accelerates it. And similarly, crisis does not necessarily create momentum. It accelerates momentum. And then it provides the cradle for innovation and breakthrough. Trust me, when this thing now is settled, we're going to see breakthrough happening like crazy, as in the past crisis has already shown us. The SARS crisis before accelerated online shopping and e-commerce. The Spanish flu crisis invented a new invention that until now we're still using. It is called the Dixie cup, the paper cup. If you do some research, you will find after every major crisis, it creates opportunities and innovation breakthrough. And then trust me, this innovation breakthrough is going to come. Where? From the young. They are going to lead the way in introducing technological breakthrough. Change will always make us uncomfortable, but this is my advice. If you hate change, one day you're going to hate irrelevance a lot more. So here is one thing that I have discovered that I have applied even as we go through these accelerated changes happening on a day-to-day basis. The way we meet now, this is change. The methods may change, but the mission remains the same. Let me repeat that. The method may change, but your mission as Rotary remains the same. These are very challenging times, and you better be intentional in keeping yourself in a frame of mind, in the frame of body, ready to be strong so that we can meet these challenges. And I'm going to give you a litany, short lang, because we don't have time. Even before COVID happened, grabe po ang change na nangyayari in the field of technology. I have clients, they are enjoying what's happening now because it simply accelerates what they're doing and it cuts short their planning, it cuts short their execution many years. Somebody says, what took us, or I think it was the top guy of Microsoft who says, Nadia, who says, you know what? What would normally take us 10 years to implement, we are now experiencing it in less than 2 years. Let me give you some technological developments that have been happening even before COVID happened. 5 years from now, you and I will be studying the possibility of entering 6G even while we are not yet implementing 5G yet. It's going to be fiber everywhere, passing through pure glass. Satellite internet, low Earth orbit, causing you the elimination of your SIM cards. That's why Huawei is already introducing that, a phone without SIM cards. There's going to be more electric. We're going to burn less fossil fuel, more electric vehicles, and at the same time, more bicycles on the road as well. No more high-rent offices. Pandemic accelerated this. No more large open workspaces. Everybody wanted to follow Google and Silicon Valley. Pagkatapos dito po sa atin, they started introducing open white spaces. Guess what happened? Productivity actually went down. You may have saved on costs, on expenses of rental, but the productivity level went down. Why? Certain things require isolation. And what they fail to anticipate is pollution. Ang tawag po dyan, noise pollution. Flexible office, 50% home, 50% office. Mobile will become your computer. One day, you're going to be bringing this everywhere you go, and then you dock it into your monitor. You don't need laptops, you don't need workstations, you don't need PC anymore. And here now is the one important thing I'd like you to understand, because this is radically going to change the entire behavior of ours, specifically in business. Cloud data security is going to increase even more. Software as a service is going to be everywhere. You don't need to hire people to develop it, to develop your software programs. And then here's one thing I'm anticipating. Customer experience. This client of mine now says that with technology in place, we now have to make sure that we raise the ante of customer experience such that every time we have a customer complaint, that complaint should be addressed within a 120-second response. Imagine the change that we will have to go through. Kaya nga po, business people like you and I, we are accustomed to change. As a matter of fact, without change, there's no opportunity to grow the business as well. In order to explore and exploit opportunities ahead, we have to take a look at the macro view of things and not to just narrowly fix our eyes on from the little spaces we occupy. We're going to miss the picture. And that's why you and I have to live carefully and skillfully and develop an appetite for life and living, even in the midst of the pandemic. And this is what I want to share with you. Well, for your information, lahat po ng sinabi ko kanina, introduction pa lamang po yan. But I'm just kidding. I'm going to share with you certain things on the personal level, which I hope you'll find useful. When the lockdown began, I walked into my closet and I discovered myself smiling and murmuring the famous words from a classic work. And then I closed my eyes and I said, water, water everywhere, not a single drop to drink. These are the famous line of a classical work from Samuel Taylor Coleridge's The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Why? Because when I went into my closet and I began to look at my things and I said, wow, suits in my closet, shirts and pants and shoes on my shelves, and not a single place to go. Made me immediately realize this COVID-19 has made me realize that life can be lived simpler. This COVID-19 can eliminate fluff and bling and all the unnecessary things that do not add value in our lives. COVID-19 can eliminate a lot of useless pride and ego and silo thinking, even in corporations, to make it even more efficient. COVID-19 can eliminate resistance to change, all these arguments about everything else, and put you and I in the position of becoming lifelong learners again. Well, I'm sure you probably feel the same way too after the ECQ. And so, I never realized at my stage in my life right now, dito sa edad kong to, I'll be under a lockdown. The last time I was in the lockdown, it was high school days because of misbehavior. Ang tawag po dyan, detention. We will never change unless we are challenged. And there has never been a bigger challenge compared to this one. That's why we're changing. We just have to make sure that you and I are changing for the better, not for the worse. This moment now will be known as pre-COVID days and post-COVID days. That's how we're going to look at history many years from now. Look at the things that are happening. Nakakatuwa hong tignan eh. Pre-COVID days. Anong sigaw ng mga bata? Millennials, YOLO. Anong ibig sabihin? You only live once. Carpe diem, seize the day. No plans for the future. Wala silang pakialam sa future. Now, the future pala is so uncertain. Post-COVID days, kailangan pala magtipid tayo ng pera. Pre-COVID days, FOMO. What is FOMO? Fear of missing out. Somebody uses Instagram and sends you a photo of a lasagna. Sabi ng mga bata, I want that. Let's go there. I don't want to miss it. Kahit wala siyang pera, I want it. Ngayon, no need to rush. There's no place that you can go. And post-COVID, you're going to have JOMO. What is JOMO? The joy of missing out. I can be happy, I can have joy without all this unnecessary bling. Pre-COVID, racket gimmicks clubbing. Now, no gigs available. In the future, ang tawag po ng McKinsey Company, home body economy. The home will be the hub for events, a hub for education, a hub for groceries and shopping and online and communications and entertainment. Pre-COVID, travel fair. Every time lahat ng mga bata, lahat ng pinaghirapang pera, gagastusin sa travel. Ngayon, virus scare. Post-COVID, the hassles of travel. You know, you have to go to the airport 4 or 5 hours before the flight, go through tryouts and endless ceremonies. And you gotta have a passport that you're COVID-free. Pagpasok sa aeroplano, parang pumapasok sa ICU. And then maglalanding ka, may breakout dun sa lugar niya, makakwarantine ka pa. Pre-COVID complaints about work. Remember? Ito yung mga complaint ng mga tao nung araw. Ano bang klaseng trabaho to? Dami-dami kong ginagawa. Hirap-hirap magkano buhay. Pagkatapos konti lang ang sweldo binabayad sa akin. Tapos yung boss ko mukhang impacto, so forth and so on. Ngayon, work from home. Post-COVID, work is home, home is work. Pre-COVID, sabi ng mga bata, mga clients ko to eh. Ang lalakas kumita dun sa mga call centers. Eh. You know, I want to have a place for my home. A place of my own. I can't stand living with my parents. Ngayon, it's not practical. Post-COVID, everybody's staying home together. So it's more practical and we can save a lot of money. So if you see, this situation now actually brings some goodness that's happening as well. But we just have to take a look and measure and trace both the challenges as well as the good things. With that as a background, the question now is, how are we going to navigate terra incognita? How are we going to enter a terrain that is totally unrecognizable? How do we adapt? How do we pivot? How do we exploit opportunities that lie ahead of us? How do we lead through difficult times? Allow me to present to you a couple of ideas that I hope you'll find useful. First and foremost, guard your mind. Everything starts with the mind. The mind is such an important factor to consider, and yet only a few people would pay premium in guarding this. And every time I talk about the mind, by the way, I don't mean the brains. The brains is to the physical body, the mind is to the soul. This is why every time you find somebody doing things that are incoherent, you don't say, this person is going out of his brains. You say that this person is going out of his mind. The mind should force us to understand. Ito po ang aking sharing sa inyo. COVID-19 is not the end of the world. This too will pass. And COVID-19 is not the dead end. It is a mere detour. On the good side, look at the things that are happening now. Look, we begin to appreciate healthcare workers. At yung mga frontliners natin, nung araw, itong mga security guard, yung mga delivery boys, ito yung mga sundalo at kapulisan natin, yung iba yung mga messenger, ang tawag natin sa kanila mga unskilled workers, some of them, which is unfair now, what do we call them? We call them essentials. I saw a sign in Brooklyn that says healthcare workers, grocery store employees, delivery people are now more important than professional athletes and actors and famous musicians. True. With this in mind, let me give you some ideas that can help you navigate the new reality. Number one, with the mind, you now develop the right perspective. This crisis is not unique to you. This too shall pass. And therefore, every crisis that creeps into us gives us fear that all is lost. No, you haven't lost anything. May mga negosyante ngayon, I'm closing my business, I've lost it all. I said, are you kidding me? You still have you. You have your loved ones. You have your competence, you have your knowledge, you have experience, you have your network. Why do you say everything is lost? Remember this wonderful quotation. Somebody says, but the good old days, nung dati ginagawa ko, look, if you're living in the past, you may be depressed. If you are worrying too much about the future, you will get anxious. You got to learn to live in the present. Be at peace and be calm. Live in the moment. Why? This way, you will not make knee-jerk reactions that will complicate your situation. And the good decisions are best derived from a calm disposition and a knowledgeable mind. Which brings us to the second idea I want to share with you. Make this situation beneficial by providing it as a platform for teaching our children. This is the best time. All the kids are with us. Remember this. A child that is only educated in school remains an uneducated child. Parenting begins everything. This is the best time to teach them attitude, values, good manners, conduct, professionalism. Teach them the most important idea of learn how to bounce back after every adversity. Why? You and I are part of history in the making. We are currently witnessing history in the making, and you and I are taking part in it. And that's why I would love that you journalize things that are happening now. The narrative or the story we're going to tell ourselves will be the very legacy we're going to pass on to our kids and to their children as well. Let this be an actual good lesson in teaching them. We are resilient. We have the faith that is with us. We have the bravery to face the situation. And yet, this too will pass. And we're going to bounce back. Number two, kids use this as a platform for teaching kids. And you have to understand, number three also is equally important. Physical distancing is required, but social isolation is not. Work from home, we miss the good old times with friends. I don't. You know why? I use technology to chat with people too. Friends. We have regular chat meets. You may be working from home, but that does not mean you are home alone. So communicate with your friends. Use technology. I mean, you have virtual coffee with your friends. You don't even have to spend on coffee treating them. I do, yeah, 2 days ago, I had a family Zoom meeting with our family from San Francisco, and we just enjoyed the moment. And we showed them my grandkid now, my first grandson, and then we showed him, and then everybody had fun. Every Monday evening, I have chat meets with my friends. We have this group that we've been together more than 10 years. We need to have friends as well. And by the way, every time you do video conferencing, ito lamang po ang aking advice. Don't forget to wear pants. You might overwhelm other people. Next is this. You got to manage your home and work activity correctly. This is the time, as I advise the young people now, 4 areas of downsizing. Downsize your stuff. You suddenly realize you don't need so much things. Sige, mag-Louis Vuitton ka nga ngayon. Saan mo gagamitin yan? Next, you got to downsize your schedule. You might be spending too much time playing computer games, watching Netflix evening until evening, or playing video games. That's not a good thing. You got to allocate your time for worthy endeavors. Next, you got to downsize your unrealistic expectations. Why? Are you still comparing yourself with others? And number 4, you got to downsize your negative thoughts. Minimalism, simplification, celebrating life is now very important, specifically during these difficult days. And now I'm going to talk about the mind. You need to be updated, but you don't want to be consumed. Don't fixate yourself on the news 24/7. Fear can do that to you. I want to know what's happening. No. Wait. I had the privilege of being involved in the morning television show when ABS-CBN was still around called Umagang Kay Ganda. And I see how they do the news. Look, news are news cycles. While we need to be updated, actually, it's the same news being rehashed the same time. They call it breaking news. No, they want to capture your attention. But actually, it's the same old news being delivered by different newscasters, being expressed in different ways, but it's the same old stuff. New developments are really small and far in between. So you need to be updated, but you don't want to be consumed. Take care of this. Do not let negativity occupy your mind space. It will be costly for you. Media shapes our thinking. And what we watch and consume becomes part of our belief system and thinking process, which means we need to practice critical thinking. And the reason why all these kids joining, ranting, and raving in the social media are so susceptible to fake news because they have lost the art and science of critical thinking. And negativity in the mind can produce that to you. And here's something else. At the end of the day, you want to reward yourself, watch Netflix, good. But then be careful. This is not the time for you to be watching movies like Brad Pitt's World War Z or kaya may virus contagion, yung mga horror stories na yan. and guard your kids. Don't expose them to movies like 13 Reasons Why, glorification and justification for suicide. What is this? You know, my wife and I, when we were watching, we realized, bakit ba nagiging dark and gloomy and dystopian ang dating ngayon ng mga Western movies? At hindi lamang po yun. Let me ask you a question. Would you allow a thief, a rapist, would you allow a sexually immoral person to enter your living room or your bedroom? No. Then for heaven's sake, why do we allow what we see in the movie penetrate our living spaces? Suddenly you see the moral deterioration of what they do, and then justifying that sex is just casual. That affects the morality of our kids as well, which is not good. Kaya, my suggestion is watch inspiring movies of real life people. Akin lang naman to, this is very subjective, but for me, the best all-time movie that I have watched is Chariots of Fire and Pursuit of Happiness and Rudy, fighting against adversity, toughening it up, having mental toughness, not quitting, not surrendering. And then, syempre, gusto namin ni Mrs. na magka-entertainment ng konti, laugh, because laughter is still the best medicine. So, we have migrated and we have transferred into watching Korean movies now with romantic comedies like Crash Landing on You and Itaewon and so forth and so on. And then read good stuff, read good books, listen to audiobooks, listen to podcasts. Great time for learning, explore new technology. And this is important, create a routine. Routine is the structure for discipline. And work from home or staying home is not a, I'll just gonna live through the day, a one day at a time thing. You know, you're gonna be overwhelmed. You need to create a routine. So, some other tips, of course, you know this. This is just a reminder. Eat healthy. Don't go into mindless munching. And then do quiet time in the morning when it's fresh. I have a routine. When I wake up in the morning, my choices hours in the morning is I do quiet time. Why? Because when I pray, I talk to God. When I read scriptures, He talks to me. I begin to build my inner strength, muna, so that enables me to be able to meet the outer challenges. And then I listen to the news. I open only to 4 channels. It's mostly the news channel. And guess what? I don't need to watch them. They're talking heads. And so while the news is being reported, I do my exercise. Eat healthy. Rest. Get enough sleep. Nap. Take naps. That's important now. And don't forget, don't be dehydrated, huh? Drink plenty of liquid. Somebody says, drink water, get sunlight. You're basically a house plant with more complicated emotions. I think so too. Get up and get going. Move around. Don't just sit down. It's not going to be good for you. And on the mind part, remember, do not keep on regretting the things you will lose. And do not keep on missing the things that you will no longer have. Learn to enjoy the blessings of what you have and be grateful. What else? Are you going to have the time to be really with your family? This is the best time. Increase the bonding aspect and have good relationship with them. And this is not the time for you to go into a 24/7 nonstop sermonizing. Your kids are stressed too. Can you imagine with that much energy with kids, and then they are under detention? They miss their school, they miss their clubs, they miss their friends. Some of them have been practicing hard, and this is the year when they're going to make varsity, and then all of these things disappear. Tough. You have to be intentional in having fun with them. I have a distinctive unfair advantage over everybody else. With this pandemic and with this lockdown, all of my kids have left their places and they come here and stay with us here in our home, together with my grandchild. I can see my apo as a baby now growing up to be a toddler now. Now, have fun with them. Fun is extremely powerful. And this is the most important principle I want to share with you. Ito na po, kung applicable sa inyo, embrace na to. If you're ready, I hope you are. Ito na po. This is so important. Don't blink. Don't miss this. Ito na po. Be good to your mother-in-law. That way you can have peace and harmony, believe me. So in summary, you got to keep the right perspective in mind. Make this situation the platform for teaching kids. Social distancing is required, but social isolation is not. You got to manage your home and work activity correctly and positively. You got to enjoy the company of your loved ones. Why? Because life is a wonderful experience, even in the midst of the pandemic. It is meant to be lived to the full. You need to have an appetite to live life well, whether during the good times or during the very difficult times as we are going through. One advantage I have is that I've gone through a lot of crises before. I have witnessed the political turmoil during the late 70s and 80s. I have witnessed the high interest rate of 45% interest on Jobo bills, remember? I've witnessed what? The political turmoils and laban, tama na, all those things that were so difficult. I've witnessed the 1997 Asian financial crisis. That's a tough one. And I've witnessed 911. I was actually on my way to New York when that thing happened. I was in LA doing training for some companies there. And then we have witnessed the recent subprime mortgage debacle in 2007 to 2009. And now this one, this is a huge one. Guess what? All of these things have one thing in common. These too will pass. So in conclusion, you got to live life as a wonderful experience. It is meant to be lived to the full. Most everyone has varying degrees of discomfort. I understand that. Every person on this side of eternity is fighting a war for personal and economic survival. But COVID-19 can force us with the clarity now to know what is valuable and what is not, what is essential and what is bling, what is reality and what is image. So, these are good things that we should remember. Well, COVID-19 is an enormous challenge we are facing, and its effect on everyone is tremendous. We will change, and things will not be easy. But we have to purposely remind ourselves that we're going to change for the better. Better in terms of personal development, better in terms of personal character, tougher, wiser, more encouraging, showing more compassion, showing more care. The members of your organization are going through stresses too. And the leaders of your organization, they're having anxieties as well. This is the time to show empathy. This is not the time to be complaining about trivial things, but this is the time to understand each other, to be patient with one another. This is the time to show care. We have a problem. You can't fake care. You got to mean it because everybody needs it, including you. And so, life is not to be lived with regrets. And trust me, one day when all of this is over and we can make sense out of it, you will realize that the moments when we become strong are the difficult moments when we went through. And one day our narrative will say, we're going to look back the year 2020, that was tough. But man, those were the times when I discovered my mission and my purpose in life. Methods change, the mission remains the same. And I also discovered new ways of doing things. And I also discovered this side of me. I discovered that I had the strength I never knew I had until I went through the crisis. And I discovered that Rotary is worth being involved in because the mission doesn't change, even with all of this. That we are creating a difference in the lives of people, that we are improving communities as well. And then we will have enjoyment and pleasure. Now, there's a difference between enjoyment and pleasure. Let me explain. You enjoy golf, you enjoy work, you enjoy bowling, you enjoy writing, you enjoy singing, you enjoy cooking because it entails skills. You put in the classical music on your vinyl record, on your 300,000 sound system, and you put your feet up and sip something that you like, that is pleasure. There's not much skill there apart from plugging in the device. This is pleasure. Pleasure is when you have invested so many years of your life with study and work, experience, networking with one another, influencing others, encouraging others, going through the hard times. And then you build the experience. COVID-19 will give us pleasure to understand that we have grown as a person. And these difficult times are actually formation times for us to become better. Enjoy life. As Jesus promised, I have come to give you life, a life to the full. And fullness living is what you and I should have. Maraming salamat. Thank you for giving me your time.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Francis, for that wonderful talk. At this point in time, we'd like to open the floor for any questions that you
Stop
might
payment.
have.
Nag-anad naman gud ta stop payment ka dugay
May nag-i-stop payment na po.
Go ahead.
Right. Anyone with the questions or
I'll begin, Brother Johnny.
okay?
Okay, interesting. Thank you for that very inspiring talk.
You're
It
welcome,
really
Rick.
made the week for me.
Thank
So
you.
my question is very rooted in the idea that we are social beings, and because we have been isolated, or at least from our social circles, the tendency is to overcompensate when this thing is over. But the interesting flip side to this is, now that we have more time, we notice even the little insignificant things that we pay no attention in the past. And this is amplified in social media, where more people have more time to be more negative and more toxic. So what do you think should we do to combat this?
We have to be intentional in not participating in such exercises. And because I believe in what Rotary is doing, and I believe in the potential of the leadership qualities that everybody has. The idea is not just to not participate, but the idea is to actively engage and use the platform to spread positivity and encouragement. But just like any worthy endeavor, it entails risk. You know that every time I post something positive there, I'm going to have some hecklers and I'm going to have some people bashing me. You know, the thing about social media is that they don't know you, you don't know them. But when they curse you, they use 4-letter words, and love isn't one of them. And that's okay. I would love to use my column in the newspaper, in my books, and the training seminars that I give, and also in my posts, to just posit a lot of positive things and encouragement that can help people. Last week, I went into one whole week of developing mental toughness. You should see the commentaries, and you usually see the feedback, while 1 or 2 or 3 guys who are not happy would bash me. But that doesn't make up for the multitude of people who would say, I needed this because this is crucial for me to understand because of what I'm going through. So I would love that we as leaders and as members of the Rotary will not just refrain from participating in bashing and ranting and raving, but will engage in spreading positivity and helping people as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Rick, George. Rick, I'd like to ask a question to Mr. Kong.
Yes, sir.
Francis, earlier you mentioned about the trend of people not working in offices. And that's true. Offices are now being vacated. So what do you think? I mean, human beings are socials. They like to interact. Would that be a permanent thing? You mentioned about Grab and Google about they tell their employees that see you next year.
Mhm.
Is that going to be a trend that will continue? I can see some areas wherein really you don't have to see the person. I mean, working at home, but how do you foresee it? I mean, long term wise. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Well, I actually see my personal opinion is going to be a hybrid. As a matter of fact, let me first present to you the pros of working from home. Number one, no EDSA traffic. Number two, for companies now to hire talents, they are no longer limited by geographical considerations. You can actually get the best talent even from Bicol to work for you now. Number three, it reduces a lot of expenses. And number four, what is actually happening now, the productivity has actually gone up. So companies will have to redefine who are the essential people that need to work in the office because you cannot eliminate 100%. What about the people maintaining your servers? What about the people who are doing other things? And so I personally see a hybrid, but work from home is going to be here to stay. And it's going to change the whole lot of things that will happen, which will involve also the economy. So my suggestion now for my clients now is you have to discover and be sensitive to products and services that can cater to what McKinsey and Company calls home body economy, because the home will turn out to be a hub. I think it was about maybe 2 weeks ago, I came up with an article says home is now the hub for everything that's going to happen. And I certainly hope that there won't be another pandemic that will come, although experts are saying this one is not the last. And so these are things that we have to consider. So I'm not of the persuasion that 100% people will be working from home, but I would tend to think that there's going to be a hybrid model wherein 50% here, 50% there. And the latest prediction from my clients now, which is a technology company, is that future offices will be subdivided into smaller spaces, maybe rooms consisting of 6 people. And here's one thing else. I'm involved with a company that represents an American air conditioning brand called York. That's why these things catch my attention. No more centralized air conditioning. It's going to be individual air conditioning now with state-of-the-art thing that can filter microbes or whatever. And these are going to be the trend that they foresee in the future, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Johnny, June Palafox. Yeah.
Yeah, Rotarian June, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Francisco. It's always
welcome.
inspiring to hear you. We just said
Thank
you at
you,
the
sir.
American Chamber of Commerce
Oh,
Fellowship
thank
Night.
you. Thank you.
Anyway, most of the more optimistic expectation of first world countries is we might be in this situation for the next 18 months.
Mhm.
But one indigenous business expert in an international webinar that I participated, he said, with this COVID-19 fast mutating, we could have a COVID 20, 21, 22, or the rest of our lives. So
Mhm.
this new normal could really be the new world order. So we really have to adapt. And then for
Mhm.
working from home, my profession, architect, we have to supervise construction elsewhere. So
Mm.
it's also very challenging. Design-wise, we can work from home, but
Yes.
site inspection is a different different ball game right away. But
True.
my question now, supposing the worst case scenario is there's this COVID the rest of our lives.
Mm-hmm. No,
That's
I'm
a
not a yes, sir.
challenging situation.
Apo. Thank you for your question. And I'm not a medical or health expert, but what I would say, because you begin to hear a lot of theories all over the place. Right now, what most countries now are doing is you don't wait for a cure to make COVID disappear. You have to learn how to manage living your lives side by side along with COVID. And that's also,
Coexist.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. And that's also the reason why when people begin asking at the start of the lockdown, is it going to be a V-shaped economy? Is it going to be U-shaped or an L-shaped economy? Nobody asks that question anymore. The truth of the matter is that it's going to be a W or M-shaped economy. Therefore, you can go up and then outbreak and then close it down and then we go up. And then, so it's going to be totally, it's going to be non-linear. Now, my son has a construction company. That's why every day he goes out and then he visits the site. But he has to wear all this protective equipment and everything. And he's a new father. And he has to make sure that when he comes home, he takes a bath, he changes his clothes and everything. There's just this additional protocol that people will have to conform to. Now, for other industries, for in most of which are you can do work at home, and I think that's going to stay for long. So this will entail, what does it entail from us? What it entails from us is to have agility, to be able to quickly adjust, and to be able to learn fast. Learning fast now becomes a new skill. And I remember what Yogi Berra says, it is so hard to predict, especially about the future. And nobody has any answer. Nobody knows, but change is happening from a day-to-day development basis. That's why it is important for us to keep abreast of things that are happening, to trace and measure, not just to be fixated on the negative things that are happening, but also to see pockets of development and improvement that's happening as well. So we have to be agile.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Francis, may I add something to what you just said?
Yes, sir.
We're seeing now, I mean, of course, in certain countries, the morbidity is quite high.
Mhm.
In the Philippines, it's not exactly, well, we have about 230,000 people infected. The number of people who died is like close to slightly more than 3,000. Okay?
Yes, yes.
Over time, with all the vaccines and everything, there's a possibility that the death morbidity would be more like flu. Okay.
Yes.
In the States, I mean, I mean, flu kills a lot of people. I mean, annually. Okay?
Yeah.
And I would think that yes, I mean, any virus over time will mutate.
Yeah.
Either they become more virulent or they
Mhm.
subside.
Yeah.
Yes, it's something to be feared, but you know, I'm just looking at the longer range where the response of people now are more like fear and paralysis. No?
True.
But if it goes down to the rate of like flu, uh, you know, human beings sometimes, you know, we have short memories.
Mhm.
When the Spanish flu, I mean, killed 50 million, but still people survive and humanity kept on growing.
Yes.
So I'm just thinking that, of course, there are certain fields that would really would have the advantage,
Mhm.
you know, having this pandemic. But
Yes.
overall, we may just be back to normal. I mean, people talk about a new normal. Maybe 2.5 years time would be normal again. Is that a
Yes.
possibility? Thank you.
Of course. Yes, it is a high possibility. Kaya pala kanina sabi ko, I recognize that voice. Kayo pala yun, Sir George. So no, I've been wanting to ask you this question because I see you in TV. Naggo-golf pa ho ba kayo?
All right.
So, well, when the Spanish flu happened and so many people died because basically nobody knew that social distancing is required and nobody was asked to wear masks at that time, they had to, at gunpoint, force
Yeah,
people to
yeah,
wear masks.
yeah,
And then when we look back, immediately after the Spanish flu, what happened? The best invention happened until today. They're making a lot of money. This
yeah,
is the invention of the Dixie cup, the
yeah,
paper cup, right? And so, yun po ang aking punto kanina. After this, it's going to be a cradle for breakthrough and innovation. We have to be prepared for that.
yeah.
But the Spanish flu also made and became the common flu and the influenza that the world experiences. So experts now are saying one day, this pandemic, this coronavirus thingy is going to be as common as it is, and there will be outbreaks, and there will be new medications to be able to mitigate that.
Yes.
Now, here's the key. Ever since COVID-19 happened, I have lost 7 people that I know.
Yeah.
And so while we may take a look at statistics and look at the low mortality rate, if it happens to someone you love, it means the world to you.
Yes.
That causes the fear. And COVID-19 does not discriminate. And that's also is the reason why it is a cruel killer. Unlike any other thing, you cannot come close to comfort those who are afflicted, and neither can you come close to help mourn for those who has lost a loved ones. A very famous person, I just got news this morning that she passed again, COVID, and then complications. And I have to send condolences ever since the outbreak happened. You know how many times I have to send condolences to people? I can't even go there to visit. Kaya po, there's fear. And sometimes when you look at numbers, it doesn't warrant the fear because it affects the entire economy. But on the other side, if it happens to a family member, then all those fear is really justified. Kaya ang hirap po eh. Ang hirap, like Presidential Advisor Joey Concepcion says, this is livelihoods versus lives. That is a delicate balance. But the hope that I have is that as the day goes on, we're going to have more information, we're going to have more developments, and we might just be able to learn how to manage to live with it as we go through the days po. Very valid po observation.
Thank you again, Francis.
Johnny, may I ask?
Yep. PP Reggie, please go ahead.
Sir, good afternoon. Thank you for your great talk. You mentioned a
My
while
pleasure.
ago about mental health. No? I think
Yes.
that's one thing that really has to be addressed nowadays. No? Would you have concrete suggestions on what companies or firms can do for their employees in order for them to be able to address mental health issues?
Yes, sir. It's happening now. I've got so many corporate clients asking me to do talks under the, malalaman niyo po yun ng initiative na ginagawa nila. It's called wellness program. They don't want to call it mental wellness or mental health programs because they kind of think that, let's just put it this way, it's not politically correct. And then it's called a wellness program wherein they will, I've been tasked to talk about how to develop mental toughness, and then yung wellness being a holistic thing, how to handle money, how to manage your health and everything else, physical health. Marami na po nangyayari ngayon because they see it eh. And secondly, part of that is also leadership training. Bakit? Eh ngayon nagwo-work from home po, marami mga leaders, they don't understand. This is the time when empathy is the biggest thing that is important. And you gotta cut your people some slack. And this is a time to understand that for the first time in the history of their humanity, their personal life, their work life, their family life, all converge in the same place and at the same time. Imagine the stress of that. Pagkatapos, may mga leaders po hindi nakakaintindi kasi sila rin stress eh. And they themselves are going to make mistakes, they're going to make wrong decisions, and then sometimes out of that stress, they put it on their people. Kaya pag sumpa lang nila, oh, ano bang resulta natin? Don't you understand we're in the crisis? That can drive the people even harder and cause them even more stress. So to answer your question, sorry for the long answer, but yes, corporate clients now understand the development of wellness programs. And they're asking people, they're even conducting Zumba or whatever, and they're having games or whatever just to provide some sort of relief because they understand that the stress level of their people are very high right now.
I have a question online from past President Fred Farungao. Dr. Kong, that was a very inspiring and informative talk. I learned a lot. My question is, do you have any suggestion for a better alternative to the continuous lockdown that is being enforced on all of us by the government?
Wala po akong suggestion at wala akong solution dito. There's none that I would know of because that's above my pay grade. But what I do understand that is that everybody is working because nobody has an answer. One day I had a TV interview. Ito yung sinabi ko eh. It feels like with the spot of economic growth that we came from. And I was listening to Sir George in his TV interview. I mean, everything was bright and rosy and everything else during our economy. Para kang para kang nagdadrive ng kotse sa highway. You're driving at 60 to 80 kilometers per hour, and then suddenly your transmission gets stuck, your brakes don't work, and so you have this nasty feeling like you haven't hit anything yet, but you're careening out of control. Within those few moments and seconds, you are being hopeful, you are afraid of the worst thing. That's exactly where we are right now. Nobody has anything in sight. And whenever you hear all these top people all over the world give their theories, most of them contradict each other. The only logical conclusion we can have is nobody has the answer yet because change is on the day-to-day development. But when we compare what we have right now to the very start of the lockdown, ang layo na po. We begin to understand a little bit about the virus, begin to understand how to make the economy work a little bit. And so I really don't have an answer, but to just keep myself abreast, keep myself hopeful, and try to measure the positive things that are happening, study the pattern recognition, because creativity is connecting the dots, and then understand that perhaps when the things become open now, you and I are going to be one of the first few people to exploit that opening and new opportunities.
Close the floor for the questions, and I'd like to request President Peter for the response.
Thank you, Danny. Our speaker started with this truism. They say that time moves slowly, but time passes quickly. Time really flies. I'm now in my 3rd month into my term as president of our club. 10 months more to go. And I say, so many things to do in Rotary, so little time. It was during the term of PDG Robert Kwan as then president of our Rotary Club in Rotary year 2002-2003 when I heard Mr. Francis Kong speak before our club for the first time. It was also a ladies' day, if I'm not mistaken. I was so inspired that I bought all 4 volumes of his One Day at a Time series. I still have them with me, and I keep going back to them whenever I feel the need to do some reflections about just anything. And last night I did. I was just in volume 1's introduction and immediately it struck a chord with me. Our speaker said, while some people wait for inspiration to begin their work, I begin working so that what I'm doing can inspire me. He continued by citing the writer Ernest Newman. The great composer does not set to work because he is inspired, but becomes inspired because he is working. Beethoven, Wagner, Bach, and Mozart settled down day after day to do the job in hand. They didn't waste time waiting for inspiration. What a wonderful, brilliant, and rich insight. And it certainly resonates to all of us Rotarians. We don't do our humanitarian works because we are inspired. Inspired or not, we do it because the things we do matter. We don't wait for inspiration before we do the things we do. I must confess, and I know a lot of us have experienced this, that there were times in the past when I felt compelled joining in some of our humanitarian projects out of respect to our club president who invited me to join him in such Rotary activities. Yet, as soon as I got myself involved in our humanitarian projects, something magical happened. Just by looking at the happy faces that met us at the site, just by listening to words of appreciation of the beneficiaries for the things that we have given them, no matter how small, and just by being there, sharing with them precious moments of fun and laughter. The feeling of joy that I felt was simply immeasurable. Of course, the fellowship that usually came after every humanitarian project activity was always something to look forward to. I believe that that was how I and a lot of our RCM confreres got Rotarized. And maybe that, ladies and gentlemen, why we Rotarians are living a great life. Mr. Francis Kong, you have touched a lot of people's hearts and minds, and they can never get enough of your inspirational presentations. In fact, most of us, if not all, have heard you once or twice or even more some years back. There are even some of the participants today who have heard you speak last week, including one who just heard you speak yesterday. I'm referring to our own member, Andy Manyalak. We all keep yearning for great insights. I just saw the comment of Director Chris Ferraresa in the chat box earlier, and I share his concern. Please keep safe, Sir Francis. Don't let COVID-19 or any virus stop you from doing what you are doing. We need people like you who provide insightful and sometimes funny perspectives of what we experience every day.
Yes.
This pandemic is giving us a lot of stress. Somehow, listening to you takes away some of that stress, or at least makes us understand how to deal with it to help us get through this crisis. Thank you. As always, you never fail to inspire us. So I urge each and every one of you joining us today, as soon as our Zoom meetings adjourn, to go to your favorite bookstore or search online bookstores.
Yes.
Get hold of any or all of the books of our speaker, Mr. Francis Kong.
Thank you.
So on behalf of the Rotary Club of Makati, our lovely aunts, our district governor, Chacha Camacho, the other Rotarians from the different clubs in our district, especially to my classmates, the perfect presidents, our Rotary actors, and all the other guests in attendance. Please accept our heartfelt gratitude for taking time and sharing with us your insights on living the great life. Once again, thank you, Mr. Francis Kong. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And as token of our appreciation for your time and service,
Thank you.
we shall giving you a copy of our 50th anniversary coffee table book.
Oh,
Yes,
wow.
we also have our own book,
Yes.
which contains our club's 50 years of community service and fellowship, together with a bottle of wine to enjoy while going through the pages of our book.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you
very
again.
generous.
Mr.
Thank
Francis.
you.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Salamat po.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
job.
you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy our wine.
Oh, salamat po. I also want to greet Ma'am Doris nga pala. Doris made sure na finalo up niya ako, so I'm gonna listen to you this afternoon. Thank you. Salamat po.
Open camera.
Yeah. Before we adjourn, may I request everyone to open their cameras for photo ops with the speaker.
Okay, one. One last. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Francis.
Congrats, President Peter.
Thank you.
Another great meeting. Congrats, President Peter.
Thank you. Great meeting.
Peter, good meeting.
Great meeting.
Congrats,
Thank you,
President Peter.
thank you, Francis.
Thank
Great
you
response,
very much,
President
fellow
Peter.
Rotarians.
Great
Yes.
response.
Thank you, President Peter. Thank you, Francis.
Thank Peter.
Okay. Muchas gracias.
Congrats, Peter.
Muchas
Bye,
gracias.
guys.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Sa kanila na.
It's up to you.
Thank you.
Okay, adios.
Thank
Adios,
you,
President
Peter. Thank you.
Adios, classmates.
Congrats, Peter.
Adios.
Program.
Dalawang
Thank you,
Adios.
President